What's going on, everybody? I hope you're having a wonderful weekend, or I hope you had a wonderful weekend, depending on when I actually get this video edited and posted. But today I just wanted to make a video that I consider pro tips. I started being a full-time reseller in 2013, and I've learned a lot along the ways. And some of the things I'm going to share with you, I learned at year 3, year 5, year 7, year 9. So I'm going to give you guys some really good pro tips that some of them took me years and years to come across or learn or adapt into my own business. So hopefully you guys can get a takeaway from this business to help you scale your business. First thing we're going to talk about is store subscription. Now, when I first started selling on eBay, I immediately got a store subscription probably within a couple weeks because I knew that I wanted to grow and scale the business. So I didn't wait till the last minute to get a store subscription. I just got a basic store subscription for $19.99 a month. There's a lot of perks that come with it. You get more free listings, things of that nature. And then I quickly grew my business to max out what a basic store subscription allows. And then I went up to the next store subscription, which I believe is a premium store subscription. I'm not 100% sure, but you definitely want to get that eBay store subscription. Some of them have perks, like you get a eBay supplies coupon. I know I get $50 every quarter, every 3 months, and I'm able to use that for eBay supplies. That's a perk. And I think there's also promotional tools you can use. But if you want to have a legitimate full-time business, being a reseller, then getting an eBay store subscription to me is basically step number one. So the next thing I want to talk about is using promotional tools. That's a good way to drive traffic, drive sales to your business. Now you're trying to make a full-time living at this or a legitimate side hustle, you need to get weekly revenue, monthly revenue. So the only way to do that is to drive traffic and drive sales. And the best way to do that is use eBay's promotional tools. I've made videos about this. So if you go back in some of my old videos about with the same title, using promotional tools or something along that line, you'll hear me rattle on for about 15 minutes about all the different tools that are at your disposal, and they're there and they help me a lot tremendously. I would say at least half of my sales are probably from eBay coupons, markdown sales, sending offers to buyers, things of that nature. So you got to put in a little bit of legwork to get those extra sales. So the next pro tip for you guys is source at auctions and then network there at the auction. Now, I started going to auctions when I first started doing this. It was one of the first ways I started to source locally, and it worked out great for me. When I first started, I was going to a local auction every Wednesday night and pretty much every Sunday, like clockwork. There was these 2 auctions I really liked, so I began to frequent those auctions. The auctions are great because they're liquidating a lot of different stuff and they're doing it in a few hours. So oftentimes what that means for you is they're going to sell huge bulk lots of this or that, or they're going to sell a whole collection of die-cast cars if the auction is ran properly. You don't want to go to an auction that's trying to nickel and dime everything, have you sit there for 3 hours. They're trying to maximize what they can get out of each item. Sometimes you'll go and they'll be like, oh, it's choice on the die-cast cars, and then people will come up to the table, pick 3, and then they'll be like, all right, we're doing choice again, and then it takes 30 minutes for them to auction off this table of die-cast cars. And then conversely, I've been to an auction where they're like, hey, we're selling this whole table of die-cast cars, and then I'll be able to win the whole table for a few $100s and take the time to list it individually on eBay and maybe turn it into $1,000 or more, things like that. Those are the kind of auctions you want to look for, and that's the way you want to source at the auctions. Buy in bulk, get stuff for really good cost where you can flip it and make a profit. Obviously, that's what we're trying to do here. But a more important, or not more important, but a very important part of auctions is networking, right? I've met a lot of people over the years at auctions. I've been to hundreds of auctions because I used to frequent them so much, and I still do, but now I've got to the point where a lot of stuff comes to me, so I don't have to go as much, and a lot of that came through networking, right? So when I first started, I was going to an auctions and I bought some autographed photos at an auction. Well, the consigner noticed that I was buying majority of the autographed photos, so he came up to me and said, hey, you want to come to my house? I have a whole collection of these. So I ended up going to the house, and I would go there weekly for months and just spend a few $100s on this guy's autograph hoard collection. And I ended up making, I probably spent a few $1,000s over the course of a year, going to the guy's house. But he was selling me these autograph photos for $5-10 mostly. Some of them were 15 if they were bigger stars. But I was selling them on eBay for 40, 50, 100, 200, $300. It was insane the margins I was getting, and it really was a catalyst for me to grow my business in the early days. So all that happened just through networking. And just more recently, I made a video about this probably about 2 years ago. I was at an auction. A guy came up to me. He noticed I buy sports cards a lot at these auctions because mainly I'm a collector. But he came up to me, and this was like right around COVID. I think it was probably like 2021 or something. And he said, "Hey, I have this autograph collection at my house, or not autograph, I'm sorry. I got this sports card collection at my house. Would you like to come take a look?" So I go by there. We end up making a deal for like $8,000 on this guy's entire sports card collection. I mean, it was amazing. There's all these graded cards, LeBron rookies, Ken Griffey Jr. rookies. Like, if you know anything about sports card, this guy had the creme de la creme. Sealed boxes of like LeBron's rookie year, things like that. I was selling these boxes for $1,500, sealed boxes of cards. I sold so many cards for several $100, $500-$600 a card. I ended up getting $20,000+ for my $8,000 investment, and I ended up taking a few $1,000s worth of cards and adding it to my personal collection. So that was a really great example of how networking, helped me find these stellar deals. A lot of times they say it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that's why networking is so important in this business. Next thing I want to talk about is having outlets for everything, right? We get a lot of stuff coming in. Like I talked about, we're at auctions, we're buying things in bulk. And sometimes I'll buy a whole table of stuff because I want 3 of the items for eBay. And then I got 20 items I don't really know what to do with, or at least that's how I felt early on. Well, now I have an online auction business where I can liquidate everything that I don't want for eBay. So that's really helped me streamline my processes here and help me not get such a huge death pile that I'm drowning in inventory. So you got to find your own ways to have outlets for things that aren't just eBay, right? Because we're going to get a lot of things that we put on eBay and they sit and they sit and they sit and they don't sell. You have to get rid of that. So before I was doing the online auction thing, I would go set up at a local flea market about once every 3 to 6 months, or I would have a yard sale in my driveway every 3 to 6 months. After the yard sale, I would decide what to donate and then decide what I actually wanted to keep to try to resell again later. So you got to kind of like thin out your inventory as you go, find outlets. A lot of times you can consign stuff to a local auction, but that's really just like you're dumping your stuff off and you're going to get fractional amount of the value, but it is also an option. It's better than maybe like donating everything or just being so stuck in a pile of inventory that you can't even have new stuff coming in. That's what you want to stop from happening. Next thing I want to talk about is using the custom SKU on eBay. When you're making a listing, right under the title, it gives you an option for a custom SKU. There, you can put whatever information you want. Only you can see that. The buyer cannot see that. No one can see it but you. So you can write anything you want in there. And for us, I usually write the date I listed it because I want to know how long the item's been on eBay, like right away when I look at it, so I can decide, hey, do I want to put this in an auction now, or do I need to like lower the price or tweak the listing, add best offer, something like that to kind of juice it up. So I put the date, and then I put the location of where to find the item. So shelf 1, shelf 2, shelf 3, etc. Tote 1, tote 2, tote 3, etc. And then when the item sells, I can see right away where it is and I know where to locate it. I got a big warehouse here. I don't want to go digging through every shelf and every tote I have to try to find an item that I did not use the custom SKU line on. So especially if you're starting out and you might have a good inventory system, as you grow and you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of items, this custom SKU line will save you an insane amount of time. So utilize that. It's definitely a tool that is great. Another pro tip is limit distractions, right? We're really busy at work or at home running a side hustle. You want to try to limit the distractions, right? When I first started this business, I worked out of my office at home for about 1.5 years. And I was at home, I'd take a lunch break, put on my favorite TV show, and then I'd sit there for 45 minutes because I gotta finish the episode, right? Now, when I take lunch breaks here at my warehouse, I watch like short YouTube videos, 10, 12, 15 minutes, because I don't want to get roped into something or sucked into something that's gonna take away from the time I'm working here. We only have so many hours in the day. You want to make the best of it, especially if your kids and wife are at work or your husband. You want to make the best of the time you have and get as much done as you can so you can get some revenue, get some income, and help your family, and you're not just like, wasting time or messing around. So, and I used to have people come to my warehouse, friends. Like when I first started this business, I was in my early to mid 20s. So I would have people come to my warehouse and they would just kind of like hang out, and it was cool to have friends around and stuff, but it really limited what I was accomplishing here at work. So I kind of nipped that in the bud eventually, or just made this more of like, this is my workplace. I got to get stuff done while I'm here. And I always keep that mentality. And I'm a very hard worker, and I just try to eliminate time wasters. The next pro tip is you want to limit overhead to scale the business. So if you're going to scale your business and you want to think about using an employee or using rent, there's a really good rule of thumb that I learned in college from my entrepreneurship professor. And he was saying that your rent should not exceed 8 to 10% of your revenue. So if you want to go rent a storage unit to kind of have more space, and that storage unit's going to cost you $120 a month, well, you want to make sure you're generating at least $1,200 to $1,500 a month in revenue, because we don't want to pay $120 a month for a storage unit if we did $500 in sales and then all of our profit is just getting eaten up by our rent costs, right? And the idea is you want to far exceed that. That's a bare minimum baseline. You don't want that rent to exceed 10% of your income or greater. Same rule essentially applies to labor, I would say. There might be a little bit of a cushion there. I don't have an exact number that I've heard, but I try to do the same 10% rule for my employee. So if I spend $2,000 a month for an employee, I would like to be generating $20,000 a month plus in revenue, because I know if I sell $20,000 a month in revenue, I know I'm going to at least clear 7 to 8K in profit. If I give $2,000 of that to an employee and she was a huge part of me making that kind of revenue, then it's not that big of a deal, because I'm going to take home that net 5 to 6K for that month myself, So you just want to keep that rule of thumb. Make sure you're paying attention to your overhead costs. Don't get carried away and kill yourself that way in the business. Another thing I recommend, it's not necessary. Everyone has different processes, but it's what works for me. When I first started, I used to do this whole thing where I'd take the item, take pictures, sit at the computer, list it, and then put the item away and then start the process over. What I found to be more efficient and effective is to do what I call photo packs. So say I go to an auction, I get a bunch of new stuff. I'll take the time, a couple hours, to photo everything for eBay, put it away on the shelf, make sure I got all that information, and then the next day or later that evening or later that afternoon, I'll sit at the computer for a couple hours and then list it all, right? So I'm doing it in like 2 phases. I do my photo pack, and then I do my listing, so I'm working on photography, and then the next step is to just sit at the computer and list everything, right? Or I'll take a big photo pack and I'll send it to my employee, and then she'll do all the drafts, and then later I can go back and just complete the drafts. That's what I like to use a employee for the most, is to list those photo packs and make drafts for me. It's a huge time saver, and it's great to have someone do that kind of work that is so time consuming, and then just pay them to get it done. So probably the greatest rule of all for this business, or any kind of business, is customer service is paramount. You're running a business, you have to treat these people the way you want to be treated. A lot of times they're going to be angry and upset. It's your job to not banter and bicker and be derogatory and mean. Even if they're being unreasonable, just kill them with kindness. Just know that even if they open a case against you, or you have to fight with eBay is going to look at all the messages you send back and forth. If you're being professional and they're being unreasonable and unruly, then eBay is more likely to side with you. But that's not the only reason you want to do this, right? This is your baby. This is your livelihood. That buyer could care less about your business, right? Don't let them ruin it for you. Don't let them give you a negative feedback because your attitude got the best of you. Now, if you get mad when you read a comment, walk away and come back a few minutes later and make sure you write a concise, professional response. Give them options. Put the ball in their court, as I like to say. So if they're angry about something and it's missing a part and you didn't list it properly, or you forgot to say that, or even if you did list it properly and they didn't catch it, and it's $100 sale, sometimes I'll be like, hey, would you like a $10 partial refund to help cover the cost of that power cord that's not included? Even if I said it and they're still upset about it and want to return it, I'm trying to avoid the return at all costs. So I'll go ahead and say, hey, do you want $10 to help cover the cost of that? or do you want to return for the refund? That's what I'm saying. Put the ball in their court, give them the options, be apologetic, be professional, be a human being, show them you're a human being. And oftentimes, almost every single time, they'll come around. They'll be very reasonable, respectful. They'll change their tone. I'll get it resolved and I'll get a positive feedback. And then I can go on about my day. No headache, no problem, no negative feedback on my account, which absolutely kills the algorithm. I can make a whole video about that, how bad negative feedback will affect your overall sales for at least the following 3 to 5 days. So keep all that in mind. Don't let some a-hole ruin your day and ruin your business because you let your attitude get the best of you. These are small speed bumps, small speeding tickets in your growth and your path to success. So keep that in mind always. That's probably the number one thing I'll touch on in this video. Lastly, I want to say, don't believe all the negativity. If you're on Facebook groups, you're talking to a lot of people, you're going to get a lot of negative things. Oh, I hate eBay. The fees are too high. Oh, there's people scamming. There's too many returns. You'll hear all that crap when you're at yard sales sourcing, talking to friends, family, people that have done this and failed. Listen, I would say maybe 10% of people that start this are going to be successful. So for you to be successful, you cannot take on that negative mindset. In my opinion, it's all BS. Now, we do come across the negative buyer here and there. We do have issues. We do have returns. There's a lot of things that you have to deal with on a daily basis in this business. That's not all fun, right? We're running a business here, and I would say that rule applies to any business. There's no business that you're going to be in where you're not going to have some kind of hardships or some kind of difficulties along the way. And if you can't weather the storm and get through those times, you will inevitably fail. So do not fall into the negativity. Always stay positive, and then just keep grinding it out and trust the process. And trust me, things will fall in line for you. Things will get better. The longer you do this, the easier it gets, the more you know, and the more you know what not to buy. And it just becomes such a beautiful thing, right? It becomes like a well-oiled machine. And if I listened to all the negativity and let people talk me out of this long ago, I would probably be working for somebody else and helping them make money right now. And instead, I'm my own boss. I'm doing very well. I have this business. I bought an online auction business, which is kind of in the same realm here, like the reselling business, and I own the auction website and I run my own auctions on there. So now I have multiple streams of income, absolutely doing what I love. So don't let anyone take that away from you ever. Always stay positive, which leads me into the very last thing I want to say, which is just a quote that's always stuck with me. Make moves, not excuses, right? So just keep grinding it out. Don't make excuses. Don't say, I can't do this because, well, I want to quit this because, unless you're absolutely miserable. If this brings you joy and you're doing what you love, then make moves, not excuses. Don't let the hard times keep you down. Always keep plugging away. Always keep looking for the next good sourcing opportunity. Always be networking. Always be pounding the pavement. Go to huge flea markets, huge sales. I'll drive an hour and a half to my favorite auction. I do it at least once or twice a month. And my favorite auction used to be an hour and 45 minutes away. And I would go there 20, 30, 35 times a year, almost weekly, because I was getting such good things there. So don't make these excuses like, oh, there's nothing in my town. If there's nothing in your town, drive to the big city that's nearest to you. It might be an hour, hour and a half away. Find a way to make it worth your time. Look on a website called AuctionZip, auctionzip.com. Find auctions in your area, local auctions. Just find a good home. Like, I like to find a home base auction where I can find a lot of good inventory every time I go. And they are out there. And like I said, the last one I went to, hour and 40 minutes, drove it all the time. The one I go to now, hour and 20 minutes from here, hour and 15 minutes from my house. I drive there every time without fail. I used to drive 45 minutes to a big flea market down the road. Now I live a lot closer to it. So I love to go there. But basically, make moves, not excuses. Treat your customers with respect. Make good choices. Take everything I just said in this video, and you will 100% be successful as long as you wake up early, work hard, and do everything I just said. It's the path to success, I promise you, and you will be so happy you did, right? And you just got to put in the work. There was a lot of years where it was tough for me, and I grinded it out, and now I'm reaping the benefits. I reinvested as much of my revenue as I could every single month to grow this thing, and it's just become such a beautiful thing. So I just love sharing this information with you guys. I hope you got something good out of this. I hope this helps you in one way or another. If there's anything you can add to help anybody else, please, by all means, drop a comment below. Like the video if you haven't already. And please subscribe. I need to get my subscriber base up, guys. Help me out here. But until next time, peace.